And we are live with our 11th edition of Nansen Office Hours. Alex, how you doing this week?
Pretty good. I mean, DeFi capital in Singapore.
There you go. How is it so far?
Pretty good. Although I'm doing a 14-day quarantine, which is not ideal, but that's
Gives
life.
you lots of time to focus on the markets, focus on shipping product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are
That's what I'm
you are
doing.
you are you allowed to exit at all, or it's just locked up in a hotel
Nope,
room?
I
Oh
can't
wow!
even open the window.
But surely you can open the blinds. When's
Yeah,
the
I do
last
have the
time you saw
blinds.
sunlight?
I I do have the curtains pulled away. Yeah. How about yourself?
the,
How's it going?
the little DeFi dungeon. It's going good. I'm in New York. I think blue skies today. Fingers crossed. Enjoying it. I guess New York is the Ethereum capital.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn consensus
Uh,
headquarter or
is that where it is? I wasn't
I
sure
think
about that. I
so.
think there's a couple. There's a few people.
They
I
have
think
one in Dublin as
Optimism
well, I think.
has an
Yeah.
office here.
Uniswap.
Maybe. Yeah. I gotta plug into the community here a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, gas fees on Ethereum are absurd. So maybe we can actually start our deep dives into our dashboards with
Let's do
understanding
it.
WTF is going on with gas fees.
All right. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
I sure can.
Alrighty. So this is Gas Tracker. It's in early access right now to our VIPs, and it's also being revamped. So the whole UI is going to look different when we release it eventually to everyone. But it's pretty cool because you see the gas price being really high, but at least personally, I'm always interested in understanding like why is the gas price so high? What's driving it up? And so this dashboard focuses on the last 7 days of gas usage. So that's like just something to keep in mind. Most of the charts you'll see are over a 7 day time period. And so this chart here shows pretty much every data point for the last 7 days. Or I think maybe it's aggregated to the hourly level, something like that, like 15-minute levels, something like that. Um, and so you can see it swinging. It's been, up to like 599 median gas price in Gwei, which is pretty insane. And you have some of these spikes, 462, 507, 501. So it's pretty ridiculous. And like the cheapest we've seen, I mean, it actually never has gone below 100, which is pretty frustrating if you want to do anything on Ethereum.
Yeah,
Um,
I had a transaction at 80 Gwei, I think, that I just like on one of my wallets, and it was frozen for 4 days, I think. And so finally yesterday, I went in and I sped it up. But yeah, I mean, it's absurd.
when I was young, you could do a transaction with 20 Gwei. So
Back in the day,
there
yeah.
you go. But yeah, so this shows the gas price. It also shows some sort of metrics on like last hour, 24 hours, and last 7 days on how much ether has been spent on gas fees. But it gets more interesting when we scroll down. So there's two sections here. The first one is what we call gas spenders, and the next section is gas consumers. So spenders are basically the kind of the addresses that spend gas. So for example, your address, if you're just executing a transaction, either you're interacting with a smart contract, you're sending tokens, you're sending ETH, you would be sort of included in this section. And this part shows the entities that we track. So the first part here shows the top 20 entities. And so entities would be, examples would be Binance, Huobi, FTX, Crypto.com. Typically, it's these kind of CeFi protocols and centralized exchanges because they're very heavy users or heavy gas spenders because they manage tons of different addresses. And so they are basically doing around 20, a bit less than 20%. The top 20 are doing a bit less than 20% of all the gas being spent. And if you break down that red area, you can also see per entity. So Binance is the biggest one that we track. Huobi is another big one. So just Huobi and Binance are basically, about half of all the gas fees among the top 20. So, that translates to around 10% of the total gas usage. There's FTX, Kraken, Alameda Research, Gate.io. It's kind of interesting Alameda Research is so high because this is not their OTC desk. This is like their actual, trading accounts. Crypto.com, Bittrex, OKX, Bitstamp, KuCoin, Nexo, MXC, Coinbase. By the way, Coinbase is under counted here, but we are working on improving coverage for Coinbase. Gemini, DYDX, HitBTC. This is the one I was trying to get to, BlockFi, because it has these pretty insane spikes here. So I guess they do some kind of batch processing of addresses. Maybe they create new deposit address for customers. Maybe they're doing sweeps from deposit addresses and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And as I said, Binance and Huobi, put those two together, and they basically spend around 10% of all the gas that's being spent on Ethereum. As you can see, it's mostly C5 protocols and exchanges. Now, if we scroll down, you get to kind of the DeFi part, because these are the smart contracts. So these are kind of we call them consumers. So this is what the gas is being spent on. And here, the picture is a little bit different because basically 50% of all the gas spent by contracts comes from only 20 different entities. And the top ones, I think most of you will know, is Uniswap. Actually, I'll scroll down here. It might be easier to just see first. Uniswap, and then there's Tether, 1inch, Wrapped Ether. Tokens are, of course, also smart contracts, so they are counted here. And then USD Coin or USDC. And I noticed earlier that if you just look at the percentage of all the gas that these are using, out of all the smart contracts, the gas usage, you can sum these up, and basically it sums to something like 40%. So like these 5 projects, Uniswap, Tether, 1inch, Wrapped Ether, and USDC, is basically 40% of all the gas being spent by contracts. So that kind of, if you're wondering why gas is so high, those 5 alone are 40% of all the gas being spent right now. You also see a couple of other usual suspects. SushiSwap. I think TokenLon is kind of interesting. I am not super familiar with that, but I think it's a popular both like wallet and exchange in China, I think, or at least in Asia. SushiSwap. You also have 0x, which includes Matcha, their DEX aggregator. You have Aave here, and then you have Metamask Swaps, which some people might have seen has really started taking off, and they're generating tons of fees. I think I saw they're producing $170,000 in trading fees per day. So that's really taken off. And synthetics. So you can see those are the ones that have more than 1% of all the gas consumption that's happening. What do you think? What do you think, Daniel? Does that help kind of clear up the picture when you think about this high gas price? Like that's what's going on under the hood?
I think so. I do also wonder, though. I mean, it would be cool to see like individual projects that are spiking or anything like that. I think that's probably somewhere where we can improve on this dashboard is pinpointing, when the gas spikes to 300 or 400 or 500, what is the cause of that? Whether it's people aping into different smart contracts, or if it's exchanges moving funds around or something like that. Like, it'd be good to know. It'd be good to diagnose things a bit better and more
even one level deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can sort of do it here by looking at the right, because here you see the individual addresses, and so here it would show up even if we don't know what the entity is. You would see it here. But yeah, it is true that of course you can't see more than the top 20 here. So you might want to go down the list, right, to like top 100 or something. and that's something that we can definitely add to this dashboard. Um, I did notice a couple here that, for example, this one, access controlled aggregator. I'm pretty sure that's a Chainlink address, and so that's one example where maybe we don't have full coverage on Chainlink oracles yet, but that's something we can add, and maybe you'd see Chainlink higher up on these rankings.
Right. Yeah, in terms of the MetaMask swaps, I think that's interesting. That they've really stepped up. I think so. Earlier, our team was having kind of a discussion about biases and always reevaluating your biases when you're trading or kind of evaluating the market. And I think MetaMask Swap was one of those products where when it came out, everyone looked at the fee that you'd be paying and thought, no way this catches on. But it's good to see that they're really getting traction and earning, the revenue they deserve. I mean, they certainly deserve to be making some money. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah,
170K a day is, good. Hats off to them. But yeah,
I mean, I think it is. I
it's
think
a
it is
critical
by
piece of the DeFi
yeah,
ecosystem.
it is by far the most used DeFi product, I would guess, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of your portal to anything DeFi. I mean, there are other
Well,
wallets, of course, but most people.
Ethereum product more broadly.
Yeah, sorry. So I think yeah, it's really your portal to anything Ethereum. You're right. So it's cool to see that they have a business model.
Yeah.
All right, should we hop on to the next thing? Do we have some people now in the chat, or?
Let's see. Joe Lubin said yesterday, everyone is way overpaying for gas. We need a better gas tracker for the market. Agreed. Gasnow.org is quite good for if you're doing short-term trades, and if I would recommend if you're about to send a transaction, just pulling it open and keeping an eye on it for 30 seconds to a minute, and just get a rough sense of what the upper limit is on where the gas is spiking to for rapid, and yeah, so gasnow.org. And then another comment: a lot of big uni airdroppers start MetaMask Swap.
Interesting.
A lot of big uni airdroppers start MetaMask Swap for like 50 or 500 to 1,000 ETH, probably preparing for MetaMask airdrop. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there is some speculation of a MetaMask retroactive airdrop for anyone who uses MetaMask Swap. So there's probably a lot of people who are testing that out, or just
That's a
doing
good
like
point.
kind of sample transactions.
Yeah.
On the topic of diving deeper on some of these contracts, so there's, I guess you can find contracts that are consuming a lot of gas, but one thing that we also look at is contracts that are getting pretty active in terms of dollars deposited into them. So that's our hot contracts dashboard.
Yeah. Let me just reload this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So hot contracts, the idea is we want to look at contracts that have been recently deployed to the mainnet, so in the last 7 days, and we want to surface the contracts that have a lot of funds flowing into them. And so this dashboard surfaces the contracts that have lots of funds flowing into them at different time intervals. So in the last hour, in the last day, or in the last 7 days. But it also shows how much smart money or how many smart money addresses have deposited into those contracts. So you kind of, okay, we just loaded it now. You see something right away. So it's like, okay, the first one, some of these, by the way, are not labeled, but you at least have the address here, and you also have links to Etherscan over here to the right. But the first one that sticks out is this top one, 1-inch pool, ETH torn. So this is the, I guess, the Ether tornado 1-inch pool. And I would guess that they have some kind of incentives going on, because 1-inch has done that with quite a lot of pools. You can probably search that briefly on Twitter, or have a look at the 1-inch Twitter account. Let's see if it says something. Let's Let's see if we spot something here. Just scrolling down. Do we see anything? Oh, here we go. So this is bragging about fees being earned for LPs. So would guess that there's some kind of incentivization going on here. Some pretty wild APYs.
Someone in the chat mentioned 350% APY currently.
Okay, so that explains it. So that's why there's a lot of money flowing into this contract. So the cool thing about this is like this is a way you can discover new stuff. Like you don't have to necessarily sit on Twitter all day and watch for 1inch to tweet something. You can just look where the money's going. So now we know that, right? And you can also see to the right here, there's 9 smart money wallets that have deposited funds into this contract in the last day, in the last 24 hours. So that's like already, okay, now I just learned something new. That's on it's sorted on the 1 hour bar by default. You can also sort by 1 day. Elite Dex Trader, that's probably an ARB bot that's receiving money, so maybe not so interesting. Pre-mining pool, I don't know what this is, so I think I might open that just to have a look afterwards. And you can do 7 days. So, okay, this one, owned upgradability proxy, but it has 0 smart money flowing into it though, or at least in the last day. We can have a quick look. This one here, don't know if, armor. Okay, so it's probably related to armor somehow. This should be tagged better, by the way. Should make a note of this. And then the first one was Tether, pre-mining pool. I wonder what this one is. A lot of Tether coming into it. We could have a quick look at it from the Tether wallet profiler. Let's see. I'm just using some shortcuts that I've shown on YouTube a few times before. But to jump to the wallet profiler for this contract, and specifically looking at USDT. So pre-mining pool was one of the addresses I spotted here on the day. It's this one here. And looks like it has more than $6 million in Tether. And there's a bunch of people participating, or at least sending tokens into it. I'm not sure what this is all about, but pre-mining pool, I mean, that sounds like something yield farming related. So might research that a bit more later. I don't think we're going to go into the details right now, but that's something you might want to have a look at. And yeah, so what else can you see in this hot contracts? These other sections, they just show pretty much the same thing as above, but in different quadrants for different time perspectives. And you can also sort by depositors of smart money. So sometimes you see interesting stuff just sorting differently. Like there's some farming rewards contracts here. Not sure what these ones are, but has to do with yield farming. Okay, they're 1inch farming rewards. That makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, this is really a great way to just discover where the money is going, and it's quite useful to get a quick overview of what you might be missing out on in terms of yield farming, etc.
So, quick question from the chat. What column, or how did you first find hash masks? We did cover this, I think, in the last week's office hours, but maybe you can quickly give some high-level
So, when I found hash masks, I literally opened hot contracts, and I believe it was among the top 3 or maybe top 5 here on the 1 hour, and then I think I sorted by the other ones like 1 day, and I saw it was still pretty high, so that's when I started investigating it. It was the same thing. I basically saw masks here, and I looked at the address a bit more, and I started Googling on Twitter hash masks, because I think the contract name was hash masks. And that's basically how I found it. And I plugged it into Wallet Profiler. I could see who was putting Ether into that contract, and that was it. Then I could basically understand a bit better if it was worth putting some money into it or not. And it looked like there was a lot of smart money I mean, there was a lot of smart money putting money into it, and they were quite early. And as we all know, I think they pulled in something like $16 million worth of Ether. So it was, I would say, wildly successful. And a lot of Hashmask investors were able to make their investment back just from the NCT tokens. And the Hashmasks basically became almost like a bonus.
Yeah. One thing I'll flag here on this hot contracts dashboard is these unlabeled wallets. So we do our best to stay on top of all of these new contracts that come out as soon as they come out, or as quickly as we can get to them. But it actually does present an opportunity to get in early on some of these projects before we've even labeled them. So if you understand how to use our tools better than other people, and you make the effort to investigate these opportunities right when you see them, you do have quite a leg up on other people. Yeah, yes, you get an edge, as mentioned in the chat here. I think one thing we can kind of demonstrate here is investigating one of these projects that aren't labeled and trying to understand what's going on there. So whether it's pulling it up on Etherscan and then pulling it into token god mode, or let's see where the adventure takes us.
Yeah, so maybe we can take this first one, right? And so this one is not labeled. It doesn't have any kind of label. That's why it's showing the address. And that indicates it's probably very new. And you can see here it's a balancer pool. Okay. Maybe not so interesting, but okay. It's a very new balancer pool for Mana, Ocean, LRC, and ENJ. That sounds incredibly niche, but who knows? Maybe there's some kind of yield farming incentives around that. Let's look at another one. I'll just close this one. This one is a bit more mysterious. Receives Tether as well. What I would probably do, I mean, you could do the same thing as we did before. Like we can look at the Tether profiler. So I'll just jump over there and run it into the Tether profiler. You can also look at the creator address to try to understand, hey, if I plug the creator address into wallet profiler, for example, maybe we have the deployer or the creator labeled, or at least maybe we can see something interesting about the creator. We just see that it's a deployer. Okay, not super interesting. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't have much Ether incoming or outgoing. Seems like it's mostly, I suppose, mostly interacting with Tether. Let's see here. Yeah, it's mostly USDC and Tether, and then a bunch of other contracts. I think it might be just an ARB bot or something like that. So this deployer might be deploying just this other contract, and this contract is just doing ARBs or something like that. Not sure, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes you find stuff, like, for example, we just found that this one was a balancer pool. And this will be automatically labeled as balancer pool, but it's so fresh that our algorithms just haven't run yet for that one.
I think one to potentially look at here, or like kind of names that stand out to me. So there's obviously the unlabeled ones, but also when you see something like Phase 1 pool, those are usually pretty interesting to check out, just because it could be like an early yield farm.
Should we do the same and look at the deployer? Maybe the deployer is known. Oh, sorry.
And then also check what's deposited into it and see if we get any.
Oh yeah, there. So you can see it has float bank and USDC.
Okay, so yeah, if you click on bank there and then see if it's got like a link to their website or anything.
You mean the token, or?
Yeah. If you get to the token page.
Yeah, I think I should just do this. Token float bank. 22 holders though. Could it be a scam?
Maybe. No, actually, I think this one is interesting to dive in deeper on, because this is one that I think we should definitely dive deeper on this one. I don't know if we actually have this one labeled yet in our whitelist on Token God mode, but
We could do a
there are
custom token God mode on it.
yeah token custom God mode, and then we'll poke through it here. And I actually did this on a on a demo recently. That's why I'm
Okay.
familiar with it.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So then, as Daniel mentioned, this we don't even have the token yet in our system, in our whitelist. But that doesn't stop you from exploring this token. You can still do a lot of interesting analysis on it. And what we want to do here is grab the token address, which you can get from the URL, for example. And then instead of going to the token God mode that you know and love at the top, you go to token God mode custom down here. And so the difference between these two is simply that token God mode custom lets you input any type of token address, even the ones we have not whitelisted yet. So here you can plug in an address, which in this case we were just plugging in the address that we just copied. And it said we had 22 holders though, right? So I don't know how much stuff we'll be able to see in this dashboard.
You just wait and see. This is why it's worth it's worth digging in deeper.
Okay. You're actually leaking some alpha to me here as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, Uniswap. Okay. So it does have some tokens on Uniswap at least.
Right. So everything about this project is highly deceptive, except you see that there's 3 phase 1 pools. And so if you pull each of those open in Etherscan,
yep,
and then click on what's deposited into them.
Ooh. Well, now it's showing the amount, right? This amount, 3 point. Or did you want to see what other assets they hold?
Yeah, what other assets they hold.
Okay, so then I think we have to just go click this one, this one.
Yeah.
So
and
DAI,
then you see, yeah.
Tether, and USDC. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds
exactly.
like a farm.
And each one is around 2 million.
Like
and
oh, okay.
And yeah.
2.5,
So,
2.6, 2.5. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now if we scroll down to top balances, this is kind of a hacky workaround, but when you pull up top depositors for phase 1 pool.
Okay, let's do it. So I'm clicking over here to the right, depositors. Yeah. I'm clicking that.
And then also simultaneously pull up the Etherscan just so we can see which pool it is. You don't need to pull up all 3, but
okay. So this was the DAI one, right?
DAI. So in this top depositors, like we already see in Etherscan that there's 2 million plus DAI deposited into this pool.
Yeah.
So
Did
really
you want to look at recipients maybe, or?
No. So what we care about on this dashboard isn't depositors of bank into this pool. We care about DAI deposited into this pool. So you can kind of pull up this URL to make it easy,
we'll just grab the DAI address, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then swap out token address with that.
Yeah. So here, as Dan was saying, so I mean, we were looking at now the top depositors of bank tokens into phase 1 because we went from the token God mode here into this, but now we just want to replace the token address over here with the DAI token address, because then it's going to show exactly the same thing, but it's going to show it for how much DAI has been deposited, not bank tokens. And these people are the ones farming, supposedly, or pooling here, right? I don't even know this project is, but maybe you've checked it out.
I don't either. To be honest with you, I just did a deep dive on it.
So do your own research. Don't attempt to this.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of 10,000. Maybe it's like a upper limit.
Yeah. So
how much you can deposit?
There's a limit of 10K, and actually someone in the chat mentioned that as well. There's a limit of 10K per participant.
Okay.
So the sorting on this isn't fantastic because everyone's got the same amount. Maybe like first in would be a better indication of smart money getting in.
That's a good idea. So we're sorting by first in, the people who first. Oh, look at the 6th wifey farmer.
Exactly. So this is why it's interesting. So once you
So
kind of
this,
like start poking through, you
yeah,
do see
okay,
like even an unsuspecting project like this
yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
is
So
an
if I saw
opportunity.
this, I'd be like, okay, I want to look at this more closely. I mean, it doesn't mean that you just ape in. I mean, you could do that as well, at your own risk. But definitely, I see two smart money wallets among the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first addresses to deposit. I mean, yeah, that's definitely interesting. And the sixth Wi-Fi farmer. That means like this address was the sixth one to farm Wi-Fi, the most iconic yield farming token. Interesting. There's more smart money here. Two more smart LPs. Yeah, there's a lot of smart LPs here. I think these guys know what they're doing. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, look at
So
this. Look at this. Newbie.eth is here. Some
a
familiar faces.
the man, the legend.
The man, the
Um,
legend.
so you can do this basically for, I mean, we don't need to go through the motions here, but like you can do this for all the different pools, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you'll see that there's actually quite a bit of overlap on these ENS addresses that you would recognize or these
Interesting.
labels, and
That's pretty cool.
it's a pretty good sign of validation. A, if there's these smart money wallets in it. B, they're recognizable and you've seen them in different pools. And C, if they are participating in multiple of the pools and like trying to get as much exposure to the opportunity as possible.
That's pretty cool. And so there were some people in the chat who knew about this project.
Yeah,
Nice.
PDBM, and he's actually shared a link to the project. It's called Float Protocol.
Interesting.
So there's
We can maybe drop a link to this dashboard as well, in the chat if people want to check it out. This one here should give you that same token god mode for that specific token. And then on the back end, we should also add this token to the whitelist, so you can just look it up by using the ticker bank from the regular token god mode. Nice. That's a cool find. So we went from spotting that in hot contracts, seeing that it was a new address that we hadn't even labeled, and then we went into token god mode to look at that token because of what we saw the contents were, right, in the pool, and that's how we got there. So it's like fully on chain discovery.
Yeah. I think a second way we can quickly replicate that same discovery is, let's pull up token god mode for DAI real quick. And we will check top balances or top balance changes and see if we can kind of rediscover this same contract, and using the same heuristic I mentioned earlier, which is, look for words like pool one or pre-mine or something like that. And as kind of like as something to double click on. Let's see if we can rediscover it.
All right, let's see. So if we go down, we can look at token balance changes once this loads. It's kind of interesting to see how the DAI has gone sort of. There's different exchanges taking the leader position on holding DAI. That's kind of interesting. Here we go. Balance changes. Change. We want to look at positive change. Phase 1 pool. It's this one, right?
Yeah, around 2.5 mil. Yeah.
2.5 mil. And so there's no easy way to jump to the top depositors from here, but you can just scroll down to the top balances. And so it's 2.5 mil, so you could just click through very quickly and look, based on the balances here. And we go to the third page and we find phase 1 pool. There it is.
And here it's even easier to get to that top depositors because you don't need to swap out any
That's nice.
Any addresses.
So this is, it's a really good example, I think, because you can see how you get to, as you said, you get to the same place in different ways. You could have discovered this from two different angles. And so phase 1 pool, go over here and you just do depositors, and it's basically going to show the exact same dashboard that we had earlier, except we didn't have to mess around with the URL because now it's DAI, and it's how much DAI has been deposited into phase 1 pool. Nice. So that means you could have found this on hot contracts, but you could also have found it just using token god mode by kind of like scanning, hey, what's new here? Like, what has received a lot of tokens? That's easy to do with this change. And you can also eyeball this column, days since first received. There's a lot of new stuff here actually. 0, 2, 2, that's the number of days since they first received DAI. And so this balancer pool, for example, 2 days ago received its first DAI, and now it has almost 15 million DAI. There's a Keeper DAO liquidity pool here, right? There's liquidity pool V1 converter. Okay, that's actually a bit older. But then, of course, there's the one we looked at, the phase 1 pool. Interesting. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. You can discover a lot of stuff. You can kind of hunt for gems, really, in its dashboards.
In the chat, someone mentioned that the TVL right now is around 7.5 mil, which I guess makes sense. We saw the 3 pools, each one with around 2.5 million in it.
Yeah.
And phase 1 of rewards began on Sunday, the 7th of February, at 10 p.m. UTC, and is lasting 6 weeks. Right now, they're only whitelisting addresses that have been active governance participants in other protocols.
Oh, cool! That's a cool idea.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Actually, it shows. Also, I just want to say quickly that this shows that addresses themselves become assets. If you have an address that's been active, I mean, we know this from airdrops as well. If you have an address that's been using other DeFi protocols, that might be eligible for airdrops, which gives the address in itself value. And here's an example of someone doing this for just being allowed to participate in the pool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And
is there an easy way to check if you're whitelisted? Does this person know? We can probably find out ourselves afterwards.
Yeah, you probably just go onto the. ST in the chat is saying you can just go to the website, connect your wallet.
The website. Cool. Nice. Thanks. Discovering things together here. That's cool.
Actually, I mean, it's great. Right now there's quite a bit of people participating in the chat.
Nice. That's cool.
Cool. Actually,
right.
Since we've got some solid participation in the chat here, do you guys want us to dive in on anything? Are there any projects that you guys are interested in and you'd like us to double click on live here? I'll give it a second. I think someone just mentioned Rari, so I guess RGT.
Oh, RGT, right?
Which has been on quite a tear in the past week, and I think they're launching a few new products.
Yeah, so this was this one I know a little bit more about since Tetranode was shelling it on Twitter. Let's see. Okay, it looks like there's a bit of liquidity on Uniswap, which quickly migrated to SushiSwap. So I guess they have some SushiSwap rewards, perhaps, or
I think they had some onsen rewards a little while back that got activated.
Pretty easy to spot that in the data as well. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's have a look. Balance changes. Biggest increaser, a certain whale.
Who shall not be named, but
who
was already
can
mentioned.
That be? Yeah. Who can that be? And then there's Wifey Maxi is here. Interesting. That's pretty interesting. And a smart contract with an ENS name. That's not super common. You see it with like Argent wallets, for example, which are basically just smart contracts. I mean, multi-sigs. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, I mean, you look at this first page of accumulators, and it has like 1, 2, 3, 4 smart money wallets accumulating this token. maybe let's flip it around. We also have smart money getting rid of it, but that could be because they're sending it to pools as well. That's a little bit hard to say. This one has an insane amount going out though. 694,000. I mean, I would want to look at what this one is doing with that token, which we can do. I'm just going to make a mental note of this 88,000 tokens, and I'm going to find this in top balances. Here we go. This one here, they've had a huge outflow, so I'm just curious to see what they did with it. And so I can just click on a wallet profiler, which is going to show all their transactions with RGT, and perhaps I'll get an idea if they're just providing liquidity or if they're actually selling the tokens. And also, by the way, like first page here, 1, 2, 3, 4 smart money wallets, right, on the first page. That's pretty, I'd say that's a pretty good sign. I mean, again, nothing here is investment advice, but that's pretty good. Okay, so looking at the one that had a huge outflow of tokens, what have they been doing? So they used to have 1.2 million RGT tokens, and now they only have 88,000. So what happened? What did they do? Well, first of all, most of the tokens went into Zapper, 40%. And then some of it to 1inch, some of it to Uniswap, some of it to 0x, probably Matcha, and then some of it to Unknown. Let's just look at, I'm going to do a time sort so I can look at the latest transactions. And so here there's a lot of trades. Okay, this is interesting. So these are bots, right? But I think what's happening here is that these are limit orders. I can try to confirm it, but I think this is what's happening. These are limit orders, and then these addresses are basically, they're scalping these limit orders. That's how the limit orders get executed. We can have a look to confirm it. Just look at one of them. So there's a swap here. Swap happened on Sushi Swap. I think we should look for like a fill. Yeah, here we go. I think this fill event means that there was basically like a 0x order, which is how Matcha works. So I think this was a Matcha limit order fill, and that's probably the same thing for all of them. So my guess is that they've also been selling quite a bit, I think. So they actually have been selling. That's interesting. Well, they've been taking profits.
I think probably a reason why they might have been setting limit orders, well, to get kind of a certain fill price that they want, but also I believe when you set these limit orders on Matcha or 1inch, you don't pay the gas, which I think is pretty critical. The buyer effectively pays the gas, and so if you're liquidating a lot, this could be a way to like not pay thousands in gas with the high gas environment that we're in right now.
Yeah. So they bought
it in the chat.
Yeah. Go for it.
Pershing says bullish selling.
Yeah. Let's have a look. I wanted to see when they bought it. Well, actually, to see that, let's go back maybe and look at just the largest transactions. I'll sort by this again, because it looks like it was around January 16th, and you see a big. Oh, okay, from a token millionaire. So maybe they just sent these tokens from another address. This token millionaire address. Oh, they're actually from many different addresses. That's a bit interesting. Yeah, I actually don't know what this is. Okay. Well, I guess people can research this, but there are 13 incoming addresses here. So there's several different sources of the funds. Most of them unknown, as you can see here. So yeah, bullish selling. I guess that's the conclusion. But yeah, so they they received a lot of these tokens, and then they set up limit orders on Matcha, and then since January 16th, those have just been getting filled. I think that's what's been happening mostly, and they've been selling a bit on 1 inch too.
There is a chance that it is somewhat bullish that they are selling, just because if I think the market cap of this project is like 50 mil, and it's trading around $8 now or something like that. If this was almost like 20%, like if they hadn't sold, this wallet would be holding like 20% of the circulating supply. So I think it is good for the health of the project that these tokens get distributed as widely as possible.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, you're right, actually. 1.2 basically would have placed it on the top spot there with the actual governance token investing contract.
Yeah.
So
I mean, frankly, it could be a team wallet. Not really sure.
Yeah, bit weird that they would be setting up these limit orders, though, right? If it's a team wallet.
Maybe. Who knows? One thing I'll also note is on the wallet profiler, we saw a lot of transactions with Zapper, and I think typically when you see these Zapper transactions, it is usually adding liquidity to an AMM, just because you can have a single asset like you can just be holding RGT in your wallet and then easily deposit into a liquidity pool. So if you see a lot, your screen's so let's double click on that transaction.
So it swaps and adds.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sold 50% for Ether, right?
Yeah.
And then provides both of it to Sushi Swap.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to get back to kind of the starting point where they started selling. So like Jan 16, if we go just back. Yeah, a lot of this is Zapper. So yeah, it's not all selling, that's true. It's like some of it's liquidity provisioning. But there's still a lot of these fills.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I went too far. So, what was it, January 16th, right? Yeah, so they receive this lot of tokens here from different wallets, and then they start adding to Uniswap, which is swapping and adding. So that's like selling half of it and providing us liquidity. I mean, that's something a team could do, I guess. And so they were doing that for a while, and then they started doing these limit orders from Jan 31st, pretty much. That's when they started getting those filled, at least. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Like, you can kind of get a rich view of what's happening. It's like a little bit clunky. You have to sort of jump out to Etherscan and back in, but you kind of get used to it, and you can get a pretty good overview right away of what's happening.
Yeah, thank you for suggesting looking into that project, ST.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot more to look at here, right? Like, you could look at, what's this whale been doing, You could look at Wi-Fi Maxi. What have they been doing with the token? There's a couple of other ones that have... you could also sort by change here and see, like, who else has been selling or, like, where the tokens have been going out. You see the Sushi Swap pool has been, like, drained, right? Probably from people buying it. That's why price has been going up, right? So it was provided as liquidity here, and then people were just buying it, And then it's been... That's the price driving up, basically. People just buying up the tokens that are in Sushi Swap.
That's an interesting point. I think another thing to look at here is if we look at one of those token distributor contracts, looking at top recipients, which might show some interesting stuff to see who has farmed the most. It doesn't always work. Like, sometimes they have weird structures, and it's not always
Which one did you want? The Sushi one?
No, like the Rari Capital Governance Token Distributor
or
Governance Token Vesting, yeah.
Yeah, I suspect, it's just a round number, so I suspect they just kind of received. You can have a look. Or you want to look at received, sorry, not deposited.
Right, I think a more interesting one might be the Governance Token Distributor.
Yeah, that's a good one. So we can look at the recipients from that, right?
Yeah.
So who's been receiving RGT tokens from the governance token distributor.
Yeah. And while this loads, open call to the audience again. If anyone has another project they want us to look into after this, feel free to let us know.
I can also drop, if people want to easily access this dashboard, that's where you go. Okay, so who's been receiving tokens? Tons of smart LPs. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the first page. LPs who know what they're doing. Chowren.eth, smart LP. Ananda.eth, a bunch of more smart LPs. Certain whale, smart LPs. Yeah, there's like a lot of smart addresses here.
Granted, this is since the beginning, right? So
Yep.
Maybe we can sort by first in and check the more recent ones.
Still some smart LPs here who...
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty long time ago, though. Like January 29th.
Well, a long time, like 12 days ago.
Yeah, 12 days ago. That's 7 years on Earth.
Yeah. Okay, I think actually something that could be interesting to check out here is pulling up the smart money dashboard and seeing if there's anything that would have indicated that smart money is accumulating. And just so we can look at this same project from a different lens and see, using how to use multiple dashboards to get a complete picture of accumulation or something like that.
So the idea is like, if you didn't know about RGT, by the way, here it is. Smart Money's been trading it in the last day. It's one of the top markets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the 8th largest market. So something's going on there. That's one thing to note. What about token holdings?
Yeah.
So maybe let's do 7 days here.
I think one day.
30. Just one day?
I think we can just check on the 1 day, and then that way we've got we can just see like what's hot right now, and we might need to poke through a little bit here.
Sushi bar. Sushi bar is hot.
Yeah, someone actually asked in the chat. They said, "Can you dive into X Sushi? They've got unlocking at March, and would like to know." They just wanted to see us do a deep dive.
Okay.
And then actually, sorry, there's a second question in the chat, which is there any way to filter on the Smart Money dashboard? Because Alameda
you can do it up here.
Quite noisy.
You can do it up here. So just click in the top right. The only bad thing is you have to then filter away the whole fund section. Or you can, for example, just look at, let's say, smart LPs. And if you then run the filter, actually I don't know if this filters out or if it keeps this subsegment in, but I guess we'll find out. Yeah, this is now showing only smart LPs. That's funny, look at that. Look at the top one. There you go. Smart LPs are trading RGT. Top market. It is kind of funny. I mean, our mission with Nansen is to surface the signal, and this is exactly the kind of stuff we hope to see. When you can just display the stuff that actually there's a strong narrative behind, and the data confirms it. That's pretty cool.
Let's quickly poke down to token holdings, top token holdings, though.
This one, yeah?
Yeah. And let's poke through a couple pages here until we find RGT, if we do see it. I think now we've filtered out funds and stuff, so maybe we're missing some longer-term holders. And if they've staked, if these smart LPs have staked their RGT.
Also, I think that, remember that bullish selling, right? I think that guy might have impacted the numbers quite a bit.
Yeah. But
You know.
let's unfilter here real quick and then check the token holdings and see if there's any discernible trends over the
Mm-hmm.
past 1 day, 7 days, and 30 days on that
Reload this.
dashboard.
We should allocate a couple of minutes on X sushi as well.
Yeah, and Juan in the chat is saying RGT has been in that list for the past few days, so
Nice.
that's a good sign that it's been a signal for a little while now.
Hopefully that was useful for you, Juan. Okay, so I think there's Torn here. That's interesting. Tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bunch of different. But as I said, I don't think RGT would show up here because of that so-called bullish selling, because that one wallet probably skews the holdings change dramatically.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
you see, it's actually negative because of that one wallet that was selling it, which is
Got it.
accurate. They were selling it,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of other smart money addresses buying them.
Yeah. I
So,
think I think maybe the thing to point out there then is how you can double click on it to dig deeper and understand what's going on. So if you go back up to that to
RGT, yeah.
RGT, you can check things like the smart money token profiler and verify who's participating there. You can check the number of addresses, meaning like the number of smart money addresses that are
Yeah, so this is 20, right?
touching it.
20 that's holding it.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
Currently
that's kind
holding.
of it would be kind of nice to have a a change metric on this, like how many more smart money wallets, just in number of addresses, are now
Agreed.
holding.
Yeah.
So it looks like Dai and Balancer and Sushi token are like held by a lot of smart money addresses. But yeah, you meant this one, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, this is quite
And then I
nice.
think you got to sort by balance because I think a lot of these people have like dust in their wallets, so they show up here.
Oh yeah, okay. So these, yeah. So this is the bullish seller.
I love that you keep calling it that.
Well, it's like minus $5 million though in 7 days.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot of bullish selling. So, yeah, you were saying if you sort by these. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I like this. Like if you sort by the change 7 days, who's been accumulating over the last 7 days. Some of these you kind of recognize them from the token god mode view. And here you see a lot of these fills. Oh, they're still getting fills. No, wait, this was. Oh yeah, I'm in it. I'm in a different time zone now, so I'm a bit confused. 10:50 a.m. 10:50 a.m. UTC to Singapore time. 6:50 p.m. Okay, so this afternoon they were still getting fills through matcha. But yeah, they've almost exhausted all the selling. So interesting, cool. Yeah, this is pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff you can dive into there. Looks pretty bullish though, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Should we look at X Sushi before we wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it. And just to debunk a a rumor, apparently there's a rumor that there's a Nansen token. Do you want to
No,
field
that's
that?
not true. That's not true. There's no Nansen token.
But if there ever is, by joining these sessions, you'll be the first one to know about it.
Yeah, we'll do office hours drop.
Yeah.
Pretty hard though to track because we have no idea who joins. All right, should we look at X Sushi? Let's look at balance changes for X Sushi. So X Sushi is a little bit strange, right? Because it's the kind of staking asset that you receive when you stake sushi. So if you see a negative change, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Alameda is selling X Sushi. It could also just mean that they are redeeming the underlying sushi. So it's a little bit tricky in that sense to track it. It does look like there's a lot of smart money probably redeeming xSushi. I would guess that's what's happening. And maybe that's because they can redeem it to sushi, and the sushi can be used in other like yield farming opportunities or something like that. Yeah, on the flip side, you also have people that are receiving xSushi. So the only thing I would say, like you can conclude, is like there's a lot of smart money dealing with xSushi. That's no doubt. And if you scroll down to the top balances, we see Alameda owning like 2% of the xSushi. And then we have this smart LP owning 2.1%. So let's just drill down on Alameda, because I'm just curious, what does it mean that they have 945,000 tokens just in the last 7 days going out of that wallet? Like, are they redeeming them, or are they selling xSushi tokens? Let's find out by going to the wallet profiler. We went over here. Click that link, and then you can see they're holding actually 11.3 million. That's a lot. They were basically the top holder. They had more than 20% of all the supply in January. And what's been going on? Well, let's sort by time to find the latest transactions. And indeed, it looks to me like it's just redeeming the underlying sushi. Because the explanation for this is that when you see the 0 address, that refers to the address which is 0x and then all zeros. And that's typically where tokens are minted from. Not always, and it's also where they're burnt. So when you stake sushi, you will receive xSushi from the 0 address. And so the latest thing they did was to actually mint a little bit of xSushi. Well, not a little bit, actually quite a lot. But you can maybe see this in the transaction as well. Not super clearly, but this is them staking some sushi tokens, and then they receive some sushi bar tokens instead 11 hours ago. But before that, it seems like they were redeeming quite a lot of it. But that was like January, right? So in January, they were redeeming a lot of xSushi for the underlying sushi. By the way,
say, like, the next step there is just looking at sushi. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to do as well. So, because here we see xSushi, it's not super interesting. It's more interesting to see what they did with the sushi when they actually redeem it. So did they sell it? Did they stake it somewhere else? Like, what did they do?
I have yet to see someone staking xSushi in Aave. I think that's now possible, or maybe it was in Cream or something. But I'm excited to see that. I think that's a really cool example of like composability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so looks like they sent February 9th, that's yesterday, they sent 82,000 sushi tokens to their Binance deposit wallet.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what they're going to do with those sushi tokens on Binance.
Right, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they've sent to
That's true.
Sushi Swap.
Yeah, and what's this thing here? Strategy withdraw minimize trading. Should probably be better labeled. Maybe there's a label on Etherscan. No. But it Alpha Finance deployer. Okay, so it's probably something Alpha Finance related. Huh.
Well, you can also check the transaction and see if there's something slightly more indicative.
Alpha Finance, IB ETH token. Remove sushi and Ether liquidity from Sushi Swap. Okay. Yeah. This feels like something we could probably just find out by Googling a little bit, or like looking on Twitter if there's something with Alpha and sushi, which we should probably know. But yeah, looks like they pulled some sushi out of there. And then they did put a lot of it into the sushi and wrapped Ether pool. Let's look at that. Are they providing liquidity? Yeah. Yes, they are. They're adding 1.6 million sushi tokens. and 13,000 ether. That's a lot of liquidity. So that's what they were doing.
Yeah,
They were
I wonder.
redeeming, and then they were putting it in there in that pool.
I wonder if these more sophisticated market makers like Alameda actually do try and time the markets for when to add and remove liquidity based on impermanent loss.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely,
basically like if they have a big sushi
definitely.
position, do they pull out before sushi spikes in price? Um,
I would guess so.
yeah, I'm not sure. Or do they hedge it in some other way on Binance? Like, you know, maybe them loading up on Binance is to do some trading to hedge
Yeah,
CIL.
that's true. That's true. You don't really know what's happening on the centralized exchange.
Yeah.
Although
Um,
having said that, like it is kind of interesting. You see, they deposited 82,000 to Binance, right? But then they withdraw 106,000 up here. So I don't know. Maybe they actually got some more sushi tokens. It's a little bit hard to say. You have to speculate that to answer that.
yeah. Um, someone mentioned that there are X sushi rewards releasing in March.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Um, all right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap things up. We appreciate everyone who joined for the whole session. You guys are troopers. Um, we're always looking to improve these sessions, so feel free to provide any feedback of structure of these conversations or anything that you'd like to look at, whether it's deep dives into projects or um, you know how we use our tools, stuff like that. So let us know. Anything to add, Alex?
No, I think maybe one idea could be to actually collect a little bit of input before we run the office hours, so that people kind of have a sense of what's going to be included. So maybe we could try doing that for next time.
And announce them more than 2 minutes before they start.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, noted. All right. We'll see you guys on Twitter and on Discord, and you guys have a fantastic week searching for alpha and enjoying these bull markets. So, catch you on the next one.
Take care.